Bhangarh Fort rises in the heart of Rajasthan, a sprawling labyrinth of stone and shadow, perched against the jagged Aravalli Hills. Built in 1573, it was meant to be a monument to power, devotion, and prosperity. The walls were thick, carved with ornate designs. The gates grand enough to announce the glory of the Rajput kings who ruled the land. Temples dotted the complex, their spires reaching for the heavens. Palaces gleamed in sunlight, markets thrived, and the city around the fort pulsed with life. At its heart was Raja Madho Singh, a ruler proud of his kingdom, confident in his soldiers, and meticulous in his governance. His people respected him. Traders flocked to the markets, and artisans adorned every stone with carvings of gods, kings, and stories of valor. The fort was a living thing, a testament to human achievement and ambition. But even as the fort rose, shadows gathered. Not the shadows of clouds or evening dusk, but those of envy, desire, and anger that lurked in corners no architect could illuminate. It begins, as many legends do, with a girl. Princess Ratnavati was not only beautiful, her hair dark as the midnight sky, her eyes sharp and intelligent, but wise beyond her years. She studied scriptures, learned music and dance, and rode horses across the hills with the confidence of one who believed in her destiny. She was admired by all who saw her, respected by scholars, and revered by the people. Her presence alone seemed to command the attention of the fort, and with it, the jealousy of those who coveted her favor. Among those consumed by fascination was Singhiya, a local sorcerer who practiced dark arts in the hills near Bhangarh. He was known to be powerful, a man whose eyes glinted with secrets and whose whispers could move the hearts of men. Singhiya became obsessed with Ratnavati. He sent her gifts, rare stones that sparkled like trapped sunlight, perfumes said to enchant the mind, and letters written in languages no one dared speak aloud. He promised her eternal love, power, even immortality. But Ratnavati refused. She laughed at his charms, dismissed his gifts, and rejected him with a grace that cut through his arrogance like a knife. Each refusal fanned the flames of Singhiya's fury. The man who had once smiled now scowled. The soft hands that wrote letters of devotion now clenched into fists of rage. And in the secrecy of his chambers, he muttered spells that darkened the night. The curse, as legend tells it, was precise. Singhiya declared that no soul within the fort would find peace. He spoke words that would linger beyond time, that would seep into walls and stones. These walls shall never know joy. Every step shall echo with dread. The night shall be your eternity, he is said to have whispered, voice low and trembling with malice. Some say the princess destroyed the spell, tossing his charms into the wind. Others say he was executed, dragged from the hills for his crimes, but the magic he cast had already rooted itself into the earth, into the stones, into the very air of Bhangarh. The effects were immediate. Traders reported strange chills even in midday sun. Soldiers swore they heard whispers in corridors where no one walked. Animals refused to enter the fort after a certain hour. Birds circled above, crying as if warning the living to keep their distance. Slowly, the city surrounding the fort began to fade. Markets emptied, artisans left their crafts, and the people vanished without explanation. Some say they fled famine. Some say they fled war. The locals insisted. They fled the curse. The fort, once alive with color and music, became a silent witness. Marble pillars remained, carved with the same intricate patterns, but they echoed only the wind. Temples stood empty, bells unringing, and the palace doors were closed as if the sun itself had abandoned the walls. Bhangarh became a city frozen in time, preserved not by care, but by dread. Stories of hauntings began to surface. Soldiers who dared guard the fort after sunset reported seeing figures on the battlements, cloaked in traditional Rajput attire, moving silently, eyes glowing faintly in the dark. Travelers camping nearby heard music, flutes, drums, and soft singing. yet no one was there. Shadows twisted in corridors where no wall should bend. Some reported a sudden chill, a pressing weight on the chest, or whispers calling their names in a voice that was both familiar and alien. Even the bravest men were not spared. One account tells of a soldier who entered the fort to retrieve a stray horse. He was a man seasoned in battles across Rajasthan. By sunset, the air thickened. He heard footsteps behind him. He turned. The corridor was empty. The footsteps quickened, echoing the beat of his own heart. Whispers teased his ears, speaking words he could not understand. When he tried to flee, the walls seemed to stretch endlessly, the gates retreating. He was found hours later at the edge of the Aravalli Hills, muttering incoherently, eyes wide with terror. He would never enter the fort again. Sinia's curse, it seems, did not require him to live. Its roots ran deep, embedded in the stones and sands of Bhangarh. The princes, though wise and strong, could not undo it. Generations passed. Kings and rulers came and went, but no settlement survived long around the fort. Locals avoided it. Children were warned never to venture near after sunset. Even during the day, an uneasy tension clung to the air. The government of India eventually recognized the danger, whether real or perceived, and installed prohibitive signs, warning visitors not to enter the fort after dark. Soldiers now patrol the area. Cameras record anomalies, sudden shadows, flashes of light, or sounds that cannot be traced. Scholars argue over the fort's abandonment, citing famine, disease, or conflict. Yet the locals whisper a different truth. It is the curse. It is Scindia's magic, still alive, still watching. To this day, Bhangarh Fort stands as a place of beauty and despair. By day, it is a monument to history. By night, it becomes a labyrinth of fear, where shadows move and whispers linger. Some claim to see Ratnavati herself, wandering the corridors, eternally vigilant. Others swear Scindia's presence can still be felt in the chill that creeps along the walls. The fort is not just a ruin. It is a story carved in stone, a warning echoing through centuries, a place where love, rage, and magic collided to create a living nightmare. Those who enter, even briefly, carry the memory of its cold stones, the whispers that haunt their ears, and the sense that the past is never truly gone. What is Bhangarh Fort? A majestic palace? A cursed city? Or a threshold between the living and the dead? The answer depends on who dares to enter. And when the sun dips below the Aravalli Hills, the air grows colder, the shadows longer, and the whispers begin once more. By the time the sun sets behind the Aravalli Hills, Bhangarh Fort transforms. The once bright marble corridors fade into a palette of shadows. The temples that rang with chants now lie silent, yet some swear they can still hear the faint ringing of bells and the soft scraping of sandalwood across stone. The market squares, once crowded with merchants and children, become hollow echoes of the past. Footsteps fall where no one walks. Whispers rise from walls where no lips have parted. Travelers who linger too long after dusk often return with stories that defy explanation. One young couple, camping near the old palace gate, reported waking at midnight to the sound of laughter, soft, melodic, yet mocking. They stepped toward the sound and found the gate's stone steps empty. The laughter ceased, replaced by the cold scrape of fingernails along stone walls, circling them as though the fort itself had awakened. Their flashlights flickered. Shadows moved in corners, stretching impossibly, vanishing when caught in the beam. By dawn, they fled, leaving their tent and belongings behind. Soldiers stationed near the fort recount similar tales. They speak of figures clad in ancient Rajput robes, standing silently atop walls, disappearing when approached. Some hear their names called in familiar voices, mothers, siblings, friends, yet when they turn, the fort remains empty. A cold hand touches their shoulders. A sudden weight presses on their chests. Animals too sense the unease. Dogs howl at empty courtyards. Monkeys flee at dusk, screeching as though warning humans of unseen terrors. The legends are endless. Some say Radnavati's spirit wanders the corridors, eternally vigilant, her laughter ringing across the fort when someone trespasses. Others speak of Sinkia's lingering presence, a dark figure moving in the shadows, eyes glowing faintly like embers, waiting to punish those who dare enter. Travelers have reported seeing their own reflections in polished stones, only to find the image distorted, twisted, as though another consciousness stared back. Even those who visit during daylight often report subtle disturbances. A sudden drop in temperature, a soft whisper in a courtyard where no wind blows, a fleeting shadow crossing a corridor too fast to track. Archaeologists and historians record these accounts but struggle to explain them. Some attribute it to natural causes, winds in the hills, echoes of distant animals, human imagination. Others insist that the fort itself is alive, a vessel of ancient magic and lingering rage. Among the strangest tales are those of the night music. Visitors report hearing flutes, drums, and bells playing inside empty temples. No one is seen. No instrument is found. The sound drifts through corridors, soft at first, then growing louder, enveloping anyone nearby. Some claim it is Ratnavati playing, a ghostly melody that mourns the lost city. Others say it is Sinkia's spell, replaying endlessly in the night, a curse transformed into sound. One of the more chilling accounts comes from a group of researchers who stayed inside the fort overnight. They documented temperatures dropping rapidly despite warm weather. Cameras caught shadows moving against the natural angle of light. Audio equipment recorded whispers in languages none of the team recognized. At one point, one researcher felt a sudden pressure on his chest, as if unseen hands pressed him into the stone floor. His companions reported hearing a guttural laugh echoing through the hallway. The team left at dawn, shaken, some refusing ever to return. Local folklore adds layers to these encounters. The villagers nearby speak of the fort as a place where the boundary between life and death blurs. They tell of a curse that affects not just the fort but anyone who dares linger too long. Children are warned never to approach after sunset. Pregnant women are said to avoid the ruins, fearing that lingering spirits might follow them home. Elders claim that even the desert wind carries whispers from the fort, words too soft to understand but heavy with warning. Animals, it seems, obey the same warning. Travelers report that dogs, horses, and even wild animals avoid the fort's boundaries at twilight. Birds circle overhead, never landing. Monkeys retreat to distant hills. The very floor of the fort seems affected. Trees twist toward the sun, growing unevenly, as if recoiling from something unseen. The stories of hauntings extend to the fort's abandoned temples and palaces. Visitors describe doors that slam without cause, windows that rattle when no wind blows, and mirrors reflecting figures long gone. Statues appear to watch intruders, eyes following their movements. At night, a faint glow sometimes emanates from the temples, bluish, unearthly, like a candle that never burns out. One night, a lone traveler reported seeing a procession in the main courtyard. Figures dressed in traditional attire marched silently, their faces hidden, their feet never touching the stone. They vanished as quickly as they appeared. The traveler fled, but his camera captured a faint, blurry image. A line of shadowed figures, frozen mid-step, as if replaying some forgotten ritual. By the 21st century, Bhangarh Fort had become more than a legend. It was a destination, a subject of study, and a place where fear and fascination collided. Scholars arrived to examine the ruins. Archaeologists mapped the walls, counted the temples, traced the markets that had vanished centuries ago. They uncovered evidence of the fort's prosperity. Carvings still vivid, foundations intact, water reservoirs that hinted at ingenious engineering. Yet they also uncovered something else, Signs of abrupt abandonment. The city surrounding the fort showed no slow decline, no evidence of famine or war large enough to drive out its inhabitants. Houses were left with belongings inside. Pots still sat on hearths. Children's toys lay in courtyards. Scholars puzzled, but locals whispered a single word: curse. Modern investigators approached Bhangarh with tools unavailable in the past. Cameras, thermometers, electromagnetic sensors, audio recorders, all were used to capture anomalies. The results were strange. Shadows moved against the light. Temperatures dropped inexplicably in certain corridors. Faint whispers were recorded, voices that called names not of the investigators. Instruments detected fluctuations in electromagnetic fields, sometimes consistent with patterns reported in paranormal hotspots. One team spent a full night inside the fort. They documented a series of phenomena that defied explanation. Doors would slam without wind. Stones, though stable, shifted slightly when no one was near. Cameras caught flashes of light moving across walls, leaving no source. Audio recordings captured low growls and whispered warnings. At one point, one investigator reported feeling hands brush against his shoulder, though he was alone in a corridor. Another saw what appeared to be a figure, dark and featureless, standing at the far end of a temple hallway. The figure vanished when approached. Accounts like these reinforced what locals had long claimed. Bhangarh is not merely abandoned. It is alive in some unseen way. It holds memory. It holds emotion. It holds something that watches. Paranormal investigators came to understand that the fort did not respond predictably. Some nights were quiet. Some nights erupted with sounds, shadows, and unexplained chills. Equipment often failed mysteriously during the most intense moments. Batteries drained. Cameras froze. Recorders captured static interspersed with guttural voices. Even tourists visiting during daylight hours report unusual experiences. Children sense unseen presences. Adults feel sudden dread. Couples claim to hear whispers in courtyards. Solo travelers describe fleeting glimpses of figures in traditional attire, shadows that linger longer than they should. Local culture intertwines with these experiences. Villagers continue to regard the fort as sacred and dangerous. Pregnant women avoid it. Children are warned never to enter after sunset. Rituals are performed at its periphery. Offerings of incense, small prayers for protection, and stories were told to each new generation. Elders insist that these rituals, though small, honor Anneliese and keep Cynthia's wrath contained. Yet skepticism persists. Scientists argue that many of the occurrences can be explained by natural causes. Temperature drops may result from the fort's stone structures, which trap cold in shadowed corridors. Whispers and laughter may be echoes carried by wind through passageways. Shadows may be tricks of light and perspective. Fear, after all, is contagious. A visitor aware of the fort's legend is primed to perceive it in every flicker of movement or gust of wind. But even skeptics cannot deny that Bhangarh exerts a unique psychological influence. Visitors consistently report anxiety, dread, and an almost physical awareness of unseen observation. Dreams of the fort follow many home. Anxiety and unease linger days after departure. The fort's power is both physical and psychological, rooted in its history, architecture, and legend. Some stories are stranger still. Travelers report encounters with Ratnavati's spirit, a young woman in white wandering the halls, observing without speaking, sometimes smiling softly, sometimes staring with eyes that carry centuries of grief. Others describe Cynthia's presence, a dark shadow in corners, lurking behind pillars, watching, waiting, unseen yet undeniable. Items left behind, jewelry, clothing, offerings, are sometimes found rearranged or missing, as if unseen hands had touched them. The fort's ongoing legacy is both cultural and cinematic. Films, documentaries, and books tell of Bhangarh, sometimes blending fact with fiction. The fort has become a symbol of India's haunted heritage, comparable to famous ghost sites worldwide. Scholars use it as a case study in anthropology, psychology, and folklore, exploring how fear, legend, and environment combine to create haunting experiences. Yet Bhangarh remains ultimately unknowable. The curse, whether real or imagined, lives in the stones and the stories. Even those who spend months studying it cannot claim full understanding. For centuries, it has resisted explanation, and it will likely continue to do so. Visitors leave with an indelible impression. Some speak of fear and awe. Some speak of wonder at the architecture and the tales. Many leave with both, intertwined, a reminder that Bhangarh is more than ruins. It is a story that refuses to end. Shadows follow the imagination long after one departs. Whispers linger in memory. The air carries a sense of presence that no words can fully describe. Bhangarh Fort is not merely haunted by spirits of the past. It is haunted by history, by legend, by human obsession, by the interplay of love, rejection, and rage that birthed its curse. The stones remember, the walls watch, and in the stillness of night, when no one dares enter, the fort waits. For centuries, people have tried to define Bhangarh, a historical site, a haunted place, a symbol of lost love and dark magic. Yet the fort defies definition. It is all these things and more. It is a mirror, reflecting fear, belief, and curiosity back at those who approach. And it is a warning. Some places hold what we cannot see. Some stories persist beyond death. And some curses, real or imagined, endure for generations. When the sun sets and the Aravalli Hills are painted in shadows, Bhangarh awakens. Footsteps echo. Shadows shift. Whispers rise. The curse, the magic, the legend, the unresolved history, watches, silent but ever present. Those who dare enter are not merely observers. They become part of the story, actors in a drama that began centuries ago and has no end. Bhangarh Fort is eternal. It is haunted. It is remembered. It is feared. And as long as people speak of it, as long as the stones remain, its story continues, carrying with it the weight of love, vengeance, and the inescapable pull of the unknown.